Okay, ji, today we are continuing on with the previous lecture. We covered till the facilitation workshops. Today we are going to talk about the focus groups. We were already talking about focus groups yesterday, and I said focus group is an elicitation technique that brings together pre-qualified stakeholders and subject matter experts to learn about their expectations and attitudes about a proposed product, service, or result. So these are the people who are few in number. The group size of 8 to 12 is optimal. You do not have as many people as there are in the workshop or as few as there are in the interview. Focus groups are used to gain feedback on completed work or prototypes. The person chosen to facilitate the session should have experience moderating sessions of this type. Facilitator is often provided with an outline or a list of objectives to achieve in the session. Naturally, we are trying to elicit information, and this is a group of people with whom we have already worked, maybe in doing some work or creating a prototype. So there is a relationship in the group. Sessions are facilitated in a manner that allows for a healthy team dynamics, a free flow of ideas, and a sufficient level of feedback to meet the session objectives. Focus groups work well to allow participants to share ideas and build off of the feedback that is being shared among the group. The business analyst should watch reactions, facial expressions, and body language in addition to taking in the information being provided by the group. Due to their format and structure, focus groups are not a suitable method for eliciting information about a problem domain. One drawback of Facebook focus group is that participants may be influenced by group pressure to agree with strong-willed participants. The facilitator plays an important role to engage the entire group and to ensure no one participant is demonstrating signs of being influenced by group pressure. I hope you might have observed this kind of group pressure. Maybe your boss is sitting in the group and you do not feel free to talk in front of him. Maybe the whole group wants to get away with the session and you are the only one who is interested to discuss, and they have, you know, they are giving you kind of looks that you should not be asking any questions or should not be sharing information. So these kinds of pressures could be quite apparent in the group, and if you can notice that, you must be able to watch their reactions when you ask a question. Do they all keep quiet and they intentionally are not trying to ask the questions? Are there any facial expressions which show their disinterest or their inquisitiveness or whatever? And the body language is also a very important tool here, because body language tells us how a person is feeling. Normally, facial expressions and body language, this is something we conclude a lot many things from them, but at the same time, no one of us can claim to be an expert in reading the expressions of others. But but we do get a lot of ideas from how the people are reacting to whatever you are doing. So, like, making a happy face, making a bad face, making, ignoring something, you can, you can smell it. And about body language, there is a lot of material which is written on body language. And there is one book by Julius Fast. Julius Fast, very common book you can find in any bookshop, bookstore. That talks about a lot many very interesting stances and statures and how people sit and stand. And for example, if you find someone who is talking to you and he's tying his hands in front of him, his or her hands in front of him, that means that person is not interested in what you are talking. He wants to get rid of you. But naturally, all these signs which you read from the body language or facial expression must complement each other. So first you look at the body gesture of that person, and then you see uninterestedness on his face, and then you are sure that this person is not really listening to you and he or she is not interested in you. So there are so many, many things which you can read in that book, and you can find out how people react to each other when they are communicating with you, and how to deduce what do they mean. Anyways, these are some of the things which for focus groups is important to read the people's feelings. Interview is another tool. It can be conducted as a formal approach or an informal approach to elicit information from the stakeholders, and this is usually used for a single person or one or two people. You can have more than one people in the interview, or maybe the interviewee could be more than one, but generally speaking, interview is best taken one-on-one. It is performed by asking prepared and or spontaneous questions and documenting the responses. So you come prepared with your questions, or maybe it is possible that you share the questions beforehand with the person who is to be interviewed, as if he can come prepared. But it is not necessary that all the questions you ask must be written down already. They may be spontaneous, because I already told you that interviews are qualitative elicitation technique. They are subjective in nature. So when you start talking to someone and he or she responds to your question, after having looking at the quality of the answer provided to you, you can frame spontaneously another question. So you may not be consulting the ready-made list of questions you came prepared with, and you could also ask some spontaneous questions. Interviews are often conducted on an individual basis between an interviewer or an interviewee, as I was saying before, but it is very much possible that it may involve multiple interviewers or multiple interviewees. Interviewing experienced project participants, stakeholders, and subject matter experts helps to identify and define the features and functions for the desired solution. Interviews work well when an individual has been identified as being able to provide a variety of information on a variety of topics. So this would be interesting talk, because this individual, we have already came to a conclusion that he knows something and he can provide that information. Therefore, we have contacted him. But if that person whom you are going to interview is not knowledgeable, or he does not hold all the information, the interview can be wasted, and you may again have to focus on a focus group. A good thing about the interview is that it is confidential, or sensitive information is needed that should not be discussed in an open forum. So the people talking in an interview are talking in privacy, and they have achieved a certain level of frankness, and therefore they can discuss anything because nobody else is listening. Then information needs to be acquired from an upper level manager. You try to conduct one-to-one interview with a senior person, because that senior person would be knowing more about his department or organization, and he may be the relevant person to ask the information about. But if you start interviewing at junior level, without having fully known that this person does have this kind of information, you will land up knowing nothing. The business analyst needs to probe deeply into the issues surrounding the problem or problem domain and needs unfettered access and time from a specific individual who may have that information. So if you know this person has this information, you will kind of elicit or probe or dig down to explore all the issues or problems which you already have a hint about. So this is a skill of the interviewee, how he digs out a response from the interviewee. There are two basic types of interviews. One are structured interviews and the other are unstructured interviews. Structured interviews begin with a list of prepared questions with a goal of asking and obtaining answers to every question on the list or within the allotted time. So though it is more structured, but it loses flexibility. You can't frame a question in between. All the time is allocated to certain questions. 2 minutes for this question answer, 2 minutes for this, 3 minutes for this. So the time is fixed and the questions are fixed. And you are just collecting the answers to only those questions. In an unstructured interview, which can be more informal in nature, it begins with a list of prepared questions again, but the only question that is definitely asked is the first question. After that, the subsequent questions are based on the answers to the previous questions. Maybe the question you have already asked, you want further elaboration on some point, or maybe the answer interviewee has provided for the first question needs further framing of another question, and you can spontaneously frame those questions. The interview takes on a life of its own and requires skill to keep the information focused on reaching the objective. So when this discussion starts, both parties' interest is engraved and therefore they can continue talking, but at the same time the interviewer must take care of this point that whatever is being discussed is within the scope and objectives of the interview. We should not get astray and start talking about irrelevant things. Interviews may be conducted synchronously or asynchronously. What is a synchronous interview? These interviews are performed live or in real time. Like, we are talking live right now. So whatever I am saying, whether it is prepared or not, it is going live. You are directly listening to it. These can be conducted in a number of ways, such as face-to-face, where the business analyst and the interviewee are in the same room, or they can be conducted over the phone or teleconference or internet collaboration tools, etc. The key is that the interview is being conducted with the interviewee and interviewer at the same time. So both the people are available online. Asynchronous interviews, these interviews are not conducted in real time. The business analyst and interviewer is not involved in the interview at the same time as the interviewee. Asynchronous interviews can be conducted through email, or I can send you recorded questions and you can send me recorded answers, or I can send you an email and you can send me the responses to each question I have sent you an email. So the interview questions are scripted. Yes.
Then what is the difference between asynchronous interview and questionnaire? It would have become a sort of a questionnaire.
Yes, but asynchronous interviews are more detailed. In a questionnaire, we normally ask questions like yes or no, or maybe brief answers. So in an asynchronous interview, they ask you to elaborate. For example, I had been interviewed a number of times by PM Network, that is a PMI magazine. So whomsoever is the author, he would first call me or send me an email that he wants to interview me online asynchronously, and if I agree, they would send me a brief list of questions. So I am supposed to provide a detailed answer. Maybe I can write a complete paragraph or 1 or 2 pages as a response to each question. So this will be detailed. What is the benefit of this? When I am talking to you, I may forget certain points and I may not cover the whole subject. So I can speak my heart out in an asynchronous interview. I can talk on length or I can write on length and I may not miss any points. So I have written may 1 or 2 pages to the answer of every question, and there are 10 questions. So all those 10-20 pages I have sent them. They will carefully go through it and then they will tailor it according to whatever their article is. Do you understand this point?
Fine. But okay, I agree. But in questionnaire, again, we have got open-ended questions and closed-ended questions.
Yes.
So in questionnaire, if we are going to ask the open-ended questions, so it is again going to be in detailed answer, detailed description. So again, it conflicts with the concept of the asynchronous interviews.
It is kind of an open-ended question, but those open-ended questions asked in a questionnaire cannot be free form. They cannot be a paragraph or 2 paragraphs or a very lengthy response. That could not be. So in an asynchronous interview, somebody can ask me write in detail the procedure for doing this job. But this kind of question cannot be in a questionnaire. A questionnaire will say, do you have a procedure for doing this job? Yes, yes or no. If you have a procedure, briefly describe in so many words, maybe 20 words. So in questionnaire, we do not provide a lot of space. We try to restrict the answer to a limit. Like you are filling the PMP application. PMP application will limit your answers. Even if you are talking about your project, what you have done in the project, you have to describe it only in few words. It will give you a limit for those words. Why they are doing so? Because there is a specific purpose for that application. The PMP exam application, they have to review it, and the reviewer will only be able to understand if it is described in that many words. All other questions in that application are either objective type or yes or no, logical or illogical.
Okay, agreed.
So there are a number of advantages to conducting an interview in person. Naturally, as the question came to your mind, this is obvious that when we are interview classically means face-to-face interview or a synchronous interview. And naturally, if I'm talking to the person while looking into his eyes, then I have got certain advantages. Having the undivided attention of the interviewee. You see, even when I am talking to you online, I may not have undivided attention. Why? Because I cannot look at your face. I cannot look into your eyes. I cannot read your expressions. I cannot see your body language. Maybe you are getting bored. Maybe you are making faces. Maybe you are smiling. Maybe you are unattentive. Maybe you are checking emails. So when I am talking to someone face to face, I have undivided attention, because that person also knows that if I'll start looking at the watch or I will start looking around, I will stop paying attention, the interviewee will notice it. Therefore, he tries to remain vigilant as if the interviewee understands that he is interested. Ability to see the body language and facial expressions accompanying the answers perhaps more clearly than with video conferences or collaboration tech tools. You see, this is very, very important. When we are doing anything online, we are missing out on the personal touch, that is body language and the face expression, which is extremely important when we are noticing the responses from the other person. Providing a more comfortable setting for the interviewee, especially if they are discussing sensitive information, for example, flaws with the current system. This is highlighting the privacy element or the sensitivity element, the sensitivity of the information. If it is to be discussed or provided, then we want the interviewee to be in a not in a public setting, sitting in a cafeteria. Should not be making this kind of interview. It should be a peaceful, isolated room where we can peacefully sit and we can have trust in each other. We can be comfortable with each other, and then only we can discuss more intimate details. With global organizations and international project teams, face-to-face elicitation activities are often replaced by teleconferences or video conferences. There are a number of benefits associated with the virtual meetings, including time and cost saving, as well as the ability to bring people together from all over the world, which would not be possible otherwise. This is a great advantage we get. Naturally, teleconferences and video conferences, they have changed our lives. Although we have lost the personal touch, but at the same time, we have wider range and reach. I can anytime talk to my brother in Canada. I can very conveniently attend a video conference with PMI or anyone or a group of people. I had been interacting with a team on PMI when we were working on OPM 3 third edition standard. I myself had a team of about 25 people. I was a quality lead, and we have all 25 people were from different countries. And it was so fascinating that every week we used to have that audio conference and teleconference, and all of those people, most of those people were always present there. I had never seen their faces before. I had not even seen during the teleconference. But PMI had a special way of doing it. As I said, uh, the personal touch is very important. If it is not there, then we may be talking to robots. So what PMI arranged was, although we were having a weekly meeting, but a weekly teleconference, but PMI ensured that after every 3 or 4 months, we have a physical meeting. So all of these 25 candidates were called at one place somewhere, maybe in USA or UK or anywhere in the world. One place we all used together, and we used to conduct a 3-day meeting face to face. That was actually the binding kind of a unit where we actually could see each other, feel each other, we could talk to each other, read the facial expressions, body language, and we can even get more frank. So I like this approach very much, that even if you have got teleconferences and you are conducting your business through teleconferences and video conferences, but still it is important if you can sometimes meet in person as well. You get my point?
Yeah, what's your point?
Some of the disadvantages associated with the conducting of virtual interviews are: interviewees multitask during the session, resulting in lost information. This is very common. I am talking to you and you might be checking email. How do I know? I don't know. Participants call into the session from various locations such as airports, parking lots, other client sites, etc., with the accompanying distractions. So from wherever you are attending the session, naturally the background noise and everything that cannot be controlled. Like, in the initial sessions when we were talking with you, there was always some, background noise of your office or so whatever. So this cannot be avoided. So what we have to have some alternate arrangement. When I feel that there is a lot of distraction on the other hand, I can switch off your mic and then we can peacefully have the meeting. But then we have to have a facility by which if you want to speak, how would I know? So that, like in this software, you can raise your hand. I would know that, and then I can ask you to speak. So we have to have some mechanism for avoiding those distractions. Lack of experience on the part of interviewer and the interviewee participating in the virtual meeting. How does this lack of experience thing happens? You have never attended a video conference, audio conference, or a one-to-one session online, and first time you are trying to talk to me, it would be very strange. Maybe my voice has not completely reached you and you started answering. We start cross talk, and sometimes there is some problem with the internet and there is a gap. So I am speaking and maybe my mic is switched off for some time, um, uh, and things like that. So this can waste a lot of time. But at the same time, if we are experienced, as I notice that my voice is not getting through and I am not getting any response, I should immediately keep quiet and do certain measures to make it possible that the connection is re-established. Similarly, if you are not listening to me, you are not getting what I am saying, maybe you can raise your hand and inform me about that. So things like that can happen. Equipment failure or poor performance of collaboration tools. Although we have got very good collaboration tools these days, earlier in old days, these collaboration tools were very weak. Now, even if the connection is very bad, still we can collaborate. Although there could be certain problems, like sometimes you lose the noise or lose the voice or something, but still we are able to collaborate. Moreover, we have good connections, high bandwidth connections available, but in Pakistan, naturally, we have problem with these bandwidths. No matter how good a bandwidth you have got, it always depends upon the backbone. The backbone is usually not strong. That is the problem on the net, that we are unable to communicate properly. All of these obstacles can be overcome with proper training and with the establishment of some ground rules for conducting the virtual meetings. Use of virtual meetings to elicit requirements is likely to increase in the future due to the substantial cost and time saving that this approach provides. You see, the training I am conducting here, this might not be, that beneficial a thing still, but in your organization, when you are communicating with your counterparts, so sitting in maybe America or USA, Canada, anywhere, uh, this helps you reduce the cost of travel from either of the parties to one place to other, and stay and a lot of affiliate expenses, and we can still talk to each other and we can understand each other. Similarly, if you had to come to Islamabad to attend this training, there would have been the expenditure of air ticket, there would have been you have to stay somewhere, you have to eat from somewhere, and all this will be an added cost. Now, in the same fee which I would charge you on a face-to-face training, you are getting this training, and naturally it will have to be compromised somehow. Sometimes, we do not have continuity. We have shorter periods of time, only 2 hours. Moreover, we do not have cannot see each other. We have connection problems, so we have to live with that. That is exactly why our sessions tend to go lengthy. It takes more time on teleconferences because of these problems. Next is observation. Observation is a very strong tool. It does not mean that you are physically interacting with someone or asking questions or something. This is your observation, viewing people, looking at them, looking at the systems, observing how the things are happening. Observation is a technique that provides a direct way of viewing the people in their environment to see how they perform their jobs or tasks and carry out processes. You see, you may, if you want some information from a department, you may like to spend some time in that department, not asking questions, just sitting with them, so just looking how they do their job, just observing. So it is particularly helpful for detailed processes when people who use the product have difficulty or are reluctant to articulate their requirements. If people cannot express themselves, then attach yourself with that person and go wherever he goes. So whatever he is doing, you are closely observing it. He does not need to explain it to you. Observation is also called job shadowing. Job shadowing means that you are doing what he is doing. You are going where he is going. So you are trying to copy him or you are trying to follow him. It is usually performed externally by an observer who views the business expert performing his or her job. So if I am following Mr. XYZ, then I would be, working closely with that person as if I know how he works, what process he adopts. So I keep making notes and I keep jotted down. It can be performed by a participant observer who performs a process or procedure to experience how it is done so as to uncover hidden requirements. The objective of the technique is to elicit requirements by observing stakeholders in their work environment. When I call somebody for an interview or any other method, then this is an artificial environment I am creating. I am talking about the work in an office. I don't know if he's truly speaking whatever happens in the workplace, or he is just, giving me a false picture. Observation often results in the transfer of greater amount of unbiased, objective, real information about the problem domain than with other forms of elicitation. When asked in a meeting to describe how to go about performing their work, it is probable that stakeholder may miss steps or under-communicate.